Welcome, everyone. Just wanted to say that we are honored to have you all with us today at this webinar, and a couple little hints about how to interact with us. Feel free to enter into the chat window any comments, let us know where you're from, or any questions. And we also have the Q&A enabled, so you can ask your question in the Q&A, and we will do our very best to answer everything during today's event. We have over 30 people joined today, so we're very excited about that. And with that, I will turn it over to Jeff Johnson.
Hey, thank you, Mary. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me real well, and it's exciting to have you all here. We appreciate you taking out your time to come through here and spend your lunch with us. It's been fantastic to work on something like this, and we're happy that it actually has come to fruition. As Mary said, my name is Jeff Johnson. I am the director of the Tech Center Research Park located here in Newport News, Virginia. I know that we have a number of people from around the country here joining us, and so we want to welcome you. For those of you who are on Central Time and Pacific Time, who've taken time out of your schedule to come and join and hear a little bit about this technology. As I mentioned, we're located on the eastern side of Virginia, very close to the water here, and we began a program around establishing a research and innovation district located in Newport News, Virginia. And our objective was really to help catalyze innovation and to help grow businesses that matter. And so as part of that effort, we have begun a series that we're calling Tech Talks. And it gives a chance to early stage companies and innovators and founders to share their innovation with a diverse group of people who may be engineers, who may be product designers, who may be investors, who may be potential customers or suppliers to help this technology grow. So that's our real whole effort around these Tech Talks. From an investment standpoint, these are very, very early stage kind of developments and innovation. We sit in a location where we have a ton of innovation here, and we want to give it a voice. So we thank you for taking the time to hear about this new and exciting technology. And again, as Mary said, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. We'll leave time at the end so that you can get your questions answered. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our first Tech Talk series on wireless power. This Tech Talk will be given by Dr. Ahmad Glover. Dr. Glover is the president and founder of WiGL, Inc. He has successfully directed and managed large-scale acquisition programs for the DoD, the Federal Aviation Administration, private industry as well. Dr. Glover served 23 years in the U.S. Air Force, where he led emerging technology, overseeing multi-billion-dollar space and special operations programs. After retirement, he successfully positioned companies for acquisition. Dr. Glover founded 38th Street Holding and is currently managing over $10 million in government contracts. Joining him today will be his co-founder, Mr. Sharif Shebang. Sharif joins us via Zoom from New Jersey. His office is in New Jersey, and we're happy to have Sharif joining us as well. Sharif serves as the lead scientist and technology officer for WiGL. As a senior executive, he has successfully managed startup technology programs at Draper Laboratories, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, BAE Systems, and RS Tech. Mr. Shebang assisted in the development of WiGL and knows the technology scope. He has successfully positioned numerous startups for acquisition. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Glover to begin our presentation.
All right, so first I want to make sure I'm not muted. So can everybody hear me just fine?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sure.
Oh, perfect. All right, so we're in for a bit of a treat today. Let me go to a COVID-19 Zoom extraordinaire here and get started by setting up presentation. So everybody can see the presentation. Everybody can hear me.
Yep.
I passed COVID Zoom check 1. All right, perfect. So WiGL, we're going to talk a little bit about this guy today. This is our standard disclaimer that we're going to talk about some stuff that I guess most of this stuff is going to be releasable, but you know, just that you are aware that you are hearing a pitch relative to our technology. So WiGL, right? We're going to say that word a lot of times. It's Wireless Electrical Grid Local Area Networks. Really, if you understand the concept of Wi-Fi, you're probably a WiGL expert already, right? So we're gonna talk to you a lot about the technology and why we're doing the technology and the importance of it as we kind of go along with this today. So everybody, I think that has some kind of mobile device has lived this problem. For me, it is almost always when I'm traveling, I'm in an airport, I forgot the cord or I've got the wrong cord, and I'm kind of like this guy here on the bottom where I'm about to bite through one of my knuckles because I've got a call I've got to make and I've got 2% battery. If you can imagine, in 2010, right, we had, I don't know, about 63 million people with some kind of mobile device. In a decade, look how that guy ballooned, right? Almost 260 million. So we grew, you know, almost 200 million devices in a decade. And oh, by the way, there's this thing coming, and it's called the Internet of Things. So your coffee maker is going to talk to your refrigerator, is going to talk to your light, it's going to talk to your Alexa machine. And a lot of things that you currently have that have batteries are all going to be looking for power and power from somewhere so that they can communicate smartly. That brings a lot of anxiety. Recent studies have shown that, you know, upward of 40% of people would turn around and go home to get a cord or a block for their phone if they forgot it. I'm probably one of those folks, right? So we all know that we got to do something about this battery problem because Internet of Things is coming. What if there was a cure? What if there was a way that you could power your devices wirelessly? So the same way that you hunt for a Wi-Fi signal, you walk into a place and say, hey, do you guys have Wi-Fi? And they go, yes. There was a way for you to go, hey, do you guys have WiGL? They said, yes, you got on the network and you were able to power your devices. That's what we're going to talk about today. That's what this tech talk is about that technology and what we're moving forward with in that space. And we've patented this, this technology, this methodology to do this in the US and of course, worldwide. And so what we're talking about is a safe, wireless transfer of power. You're going to see when Sharif showed you, we're using the same Wi-Fi frequencies that are used to do all kind of other nifty stuff in your house today. So like I said, right, if you understand Wi-Fi, you're probably already a WiGL expert because, you know, if you're like me, you've got some kind of modem that gets you to the internet. You pay some subscription, you pay somebody some money, whatever that is, right? Call it 80 bucks. And then you said, well, I don't want to plug into the wall or I don't want to plug into this modem. So I also went and got some kind of Wi-Fi router. Maybe you bought it yourself or you rent it, whatever, however it works, right? But you've got that. And then you've got in your mobile device the ability to get from that modem to the internet across the radio frequency to your device. Well, if you understood what I just said, you understood WiGL. It's the same concept, right? You would, in the future, you would say, hey, I need an ability to get to the internet. Oh, by the way, also give me wireless power. You have both Wi-Fi and WiGL enabled in your devices. You'd have this network thing built. And oh, by the way, you no longer need that cord. And that cord piece, which is the anxiety piece, would begin to go away. So I'm gonna turn this over to the esteemed Sharif Shabane, and he's gonna talk to you about getting rid of that cord.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, thanks a lot for the opportunity to present our technology here. We do believe that it fills a very, very important need. So, but before we start, I mean, really the idea of transferring power from point A to point B is not new. I mean, it's been started from the old Tesla days, and it's been always a problem. The reason why it is a problem, because when the universe was created, some physics came along with it, and that's what it says. It says basically you cannot transfer the power from point A to B. I mean, you could, but the distance is, the farther you go from point A to point B, the smaller the power you can receive on the other side. So that is really the problem that has been along since. Now, the interesting thing is the cellular world solved this problem over the last 30 years. And basically what they did is to increase the distance. What they did is they populated the area that they want to cover with what we refer to as cell towers, okay? And so the idea is you're communicating with the cell tower, which basically the same thing as transferring power from you to the cell tower and vice versa. You're communicating to it, and then you are at a certain distance where enough power can get to you to do whatever you need. But as you move farther from that cell that you're communicating with, or you're transferring power from it to, as you get farther from it, what happens is the next cell, you make connection to the next cell. And in the cellular world, we call it roaming, meaning moving from one cell to another cell. And this is the concept that allows the cellular world to be able to cover a large area. In our case, we leveraged all the technologies that's been developed by the cellular world. We leveraged it for our application here. We optimized it and modified it. And that is the key to our patent. Our patent leverages that concept, plus we added some other technologies that I'm gonna cover to allow us to basically transfer power over longer distances. So that's kind of what we have done, and that's what I'm going to cover. So where are we with the technology? And I'm going to show you some experiments we're doing in the lab right now. Right now, what we have done is we developed a prototype to do a proof of concept. And the proof of concept is to see, does our concept really work? So in addition to the cellular concept that we used, we also have introduced and we leveraged some technology that's been developed in the 5G, and I spent my career in that area in there. And that basically, how do you transfer the power from the antenna? So there are two ways where you can send energy or power from antenna A to antenna B. So one way is, we refer to it in our field as omnidirectional, meaning the energy goes the same over 360 degrees, meaning you always receive energy wherever you are around the antenna. That's, we call it omnidirectional. The other one is from the antenna, what you do, you use some techniques and you direct the energy only in one direction. Well, what's the difference, you might ask? Well, in the omnidirectional, you receive the energy anywhere you are around the antenna. In the directional one, you receive it only in one direction, but in the directional one, you can go farther a little bit. So we use the directional antenna to go farther. Of course, there are some hurdles that we had to overcome, meaning you have to tell it where you are. Now, in the outside world, in the cellular world, it's very easy because you use GPS. As we know, indoors, you don't have GPS, and we have some techniques to overcome that challenge. So right now, we have a proof of concept. I'm going to show it to you. And what we're doing is we developed the key enabling technologies to prove the concept. The next one is we refer to as generation one. And in generation one, what we plan to do is take what we have right now and put it what we call on device, meaning we're going to build a dongle or an applique or something that you can plug to your device, and it is externally. And that externally, what it does, it receives the energy and converts it to power that charges your battery as you're going along. And that's what we refer as generation one. Generation two, which is going to come after that, and what we're doing is we're taking the technology that we have and miniaturizing it and making it in such a way that it can be integrated inside the handheld device. So that is for generation two. And so based on the results that we have now on our current proof of concept, we do believe, and we are fairly confident that we can get to phase two, generation two, fairly easily. Next slide. Okay, so how does it work? Right now, as I mentioned before, is and by the way, as I said, this idea is not new. There are some people here, some companies that are looking at this here, and they're all basically looking at doing point to point. And as we said, the physics of it, the physics puts some limits in how far you can go over that. So most of the people that are looking at this, they're looking to transfer low power meaning to do hearing aids and those type of, and the reason being because they do not leverage our approach, which basically allows you to use the cellular concept plus our antenna directional technology to allow you to go over longer distances. So we characterize our technology. The key element to it is we're able to transfer high power over longer distances. Next. So how would that work, for instance, in a typical environment? So you are in a household, and our technology is, we developed it specifically in such a way that it's going to be integrated, for instance, in power outlets. You can integrate it in fans. It integrated in existing radios, in existing Wi-Fi routers. It's going to co-locate within those areas. So this way it will provide you an all-time charging capability of your device without even you knowing it. And the way it will work, as I mentioned before, is you walk in, you have a beam, and a beam is something that you can think of it as a cone shape of energy. And you walk in, your device says, well, yeah, I need some power. A beam gets formed and then follows you without even you knowing it. So this way, as Professor mentioned before, that cord that we always share, that we all cherish, we will not need it anymore. Next. So this is a cartoon here that kind of shows basically what happens. So you have a device in there, and then that thing, okay, and then as the device moves, another beam from somebody else shows up, and then and then moves with him. And this whole process happens without even you knowing it. And that is the same thing. That's the word wiggle, because when you're accessing WLAN, you don't care what the router is when you're going from place to place. It's just there. The system really goes from one router to another one, and that's the concept with our thing. That's wiggle. Instead of data, you have power in there, and power comes to you without even you knowing it. Next. So this is kind of a system that we're going to show you. And again, this system here, we have a video coming up, And this system here, we have two areas. We have on one side the transmit power, and we have the receiver on the other side. And on the back of it, we have a device that's being charged. In this case, we're using a phone. This is for a different application that we're using, but we're using just the phone to tell us that we are receiving power. And that's the quick video that we're going to show over here. Professor, can you play the video, please? Okay, so this is the device that, as you can see, the phone is receiving power, and then it's being charged. And all these wires here are just a prototype. That's why we refer to as a proof of concept. The next step is clean up all the wires and make something smaller. Okay, go ahead. So this is the phone being charged, and that's on the receiver side. It's on the back of the receiver side. And as I said, we're just using him as to tell us that our system is really working. Yeah. Okay, next. Now, this is the transmitter side. Our transmitter side, as you see, we use patch antenna. And patch antenna, this is one way for us to form the beam that I talked to you about that has a smart to follow you. In this case here, we have a fixed beam because it's for a prototype, and this beam is fixed to directly between the transmitter and the receiver, and that's how we transfer power. In the next stage, what we'll do is we'll bring in the smarts for this beam to be able to follow the receiver. And by the way, it has to know where the receiver is, even though you are indoors, because indoors you don't have GPS. Okay, move on. This is the transmitter side. Again, the transmitter, and stop. And just very important to note that we're using the same 2.4 gigahertz. It doesn't mean that we have to use it, but this is what we're using over here. We can use any frequency that we use. It has to be a frequency that's not licensed, because there are two types of frequencies that are licensed and unlicensed. Licensed is the one that Verizon and the AT&T use, and the unlicensed are the one that the Wi-Fi and all the other people use. We are using the unlicensed one. Go on. This shows the test instrument, and again, this is in a lab environment test instrument. As you can see, we're transmitting at 2.4 gigahertz. So this way, we just have this way. Our sponsor will say, well, show me that you're using 2.4 and not lying to me. So as you can see, it is really 2.4 gigahertz. Continue. The next piece we're going to show you is the receiver side. Again, the receiver side, it has to match the frequency that we're transmitting to. And we have the transmitter here. Basically, we have a small patches, and again, we have electronics in there. The next step is to remove all these wires and miniaturize everything. But for this here, we're just using it for the lab. And the reason we need wires because we need a way for us engineers to be able to connect and disconnect things to test and everything. And that's why we have all these wires in there. Next. Yeah, again, this is the receiver side. And from here, it will show that actually we are receiving power, and that power made it in such a way that the Apple phone, iPhone can receive it and power. So really, in the real application, you will have what we call by a dongle in generation 1. We'll take all this electronics and miniaturize it and make it as a dongle that fits into your, it connects to your hand device, and then you're moving. You have a beam over there that in this setup, it's fixed. The beam will be able to follow you, and then you will no longer need any charging cable. Okay, and that's basically what we have for the video in here. It shows that we have hardware that we're testing, and it does what we advertise that it does. Okay. Now for the slide, that comes up in here now, I told you what our system does, and I showed you what it does. So the next slide. So this is a real world use case. And if you're like us and we went through airports, the most frustrating things is going to an area to charge your phone, and it's either used, no, there's none of them, or by the way, or you have only an area where you plug in a USB and it doesn't work. By the way, never connect USB directly, because Uncle Vladimir is probably listening and having all your contacts over there. But nevertheless, it's very, very hard to charge your devices. So our technology, the transmitter that I was showing you, we can envision them deployed throughout the whole terminal or cover, we refer to as a coverage area. And then as you walk in, you say, your device says, well, you know, I really need power to charge. So what happens is I guess some negotiation is gonna be done, and then the beam gets formed, and that beam there will follow you. It'll follow you when you get to a distance that's far from it and close to the next one. Another beam from the next one gets formed and comes after you and follows you. And it's very important to say that this whole process is it is really transparent to you. You don't know that it's happening. And with this here, you no longer will have people sitting on the floor over there, or somebody sitting on the bench really worrying how to charge his or her device as it's shown over here. Next. So what's on the handheld device? The handheld device is really, we put a lot of effort into hide all this infrastructure, the beam forming, the following and everything, hide it from the user, and the user will just have an application in there and a small app running on his handheld device, and that app would say, yeah, assuming he has the way to access the power, he says, well, I really need the power, and then he does some negotiation between the transmitter that's nearby him or her, a beam gets formed, and then the whole process is really transparent to the user over here. So again, what we have done here is we really leveraged the multi-billion dollars that have been spent in developing the cellular networks, the 5G, and we really optimized it, and we developed our own critical technologies, our own technologies that we patent to be able to develop this capability that once for all will allow us to remove the cord, get rid of the cord, and get power the same way we deliver the internet right now. And that's what I have to say. Over back to you, Professor.
Okay. Well, good. So, you know, I love listening to those educational tours that we do about WiGL. I get very, very excited because, you know, as Sharif mentioned, we all want mobility, right? I don't want to be huddled up around the restroom, you know, because that's the only cord plug-in place left at the airport. So as he mentioned, folks have been looking at this for a while, right? And what they've really kind of been stuck in, the paradigm was that one-to-one pairing that he mentioned. I've got a radio, I've got a receiver. How far away from my receiver can I get with my radio and give you some power, some meaningful power? You know, of course, you know, hearing aids and some of these small devices are important, but I've got a laptop, I've got a cell phone, I've got a tablet, right? I need more power. So what we've been looking at is more the network capability, and that's what he said. So what does that mean? So people are either wired, right? We don't have those guys on the screen here. Or you can be direct, you can be loosely coupled, you can be kind of uncoupled, or you could be completely coupled, right? If you all have some kind of device, maybe at your house or in your car, you take your phone out of the case, you put your phone on the device, that's kind of what we're talking about. And so, but what about distance? Okay, so how far away from that thing can I go? Well, I can go maybe, you know, either on it, a couple millimeters away, or some folks are saying, hey, I can get you probably 15 feet away from this guy. Yeah, that's good, but I still want to walk around the airport, right? I don't want to be 15 feet. So I need the ability potentially to have infinite power. When I walk around looking for Wi-Fi, I want that to be infinite. I want to hand off from the Wi-Fi network I was on onto my cellular network, get in my car, get back on my Wi-Fi network, leave that, go into my office and get into it. I want that capability. That's WiGL. So as I led in, right, if you understand the concept of how Wi-Fi works, you're already a WiGL expert. So, okay, Doc, lots of words, blah, blah, blah. So what? Why? Why is that important? Reasons it's important is because we all want that infinite mobility. I talked about the Internet of Things and things that would connect. We, as a global collective of humans, we use a lot of power. We have a lot of devices that use electricity. I'm stuck in this one. I'm always the guy that goes to Starbucks or Panera and there's 3 outlets available, and the people sitting at the places with the outlets don't have any devices and they have no intentions of moving. And so we want to have the ability to power, get to the internet, conduct business. You know, in our COVID world, I might even be teaching a class with my kids. I need that ability. So what does that look like from a business case standpoint? So lots of numbers on here. The takeaway is the total available market is really, really big. You know, as I mentioned, I've got a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, right? It's really, really big when we get to the transmitters and receivers required to give you that wireless capability. But there's another piece, right? There's another piece with WiGL that absolutely upends and disrupts the market. Because I've got a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they can't live 4 minutes without Wi-Fi. So I pay for that. I pay a subscription for them to be able to have Wi-Fi. I've got Wi-Fi in the house, in a couple of cars, in the office, right? We've got to pay for those subscriptions. Well, WiGL says, as Sharif mentioned to you at the beginning, you would log in if you're at the airport. You'd say, hey, I want to get on the Atlanta Wi-Fi network, and I also want to get on the Atlanta WiGL network, and there's a fee associated with that. So, okay, Doc, blah, 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 a lot of words again. What does that mean? That means that is also a really, really, really big market, really big. And so when you kind of drill down from a business case and say, okay, it's okay, I got it. It's a big market if you get transmitters and receivers. It's a big market if you say there's a subscription piece to it. What does that mean to you for WiGL? So, okay, so if I said, yep, lots of numbers, big numbers, big numbers, right? So even if you're talking 0.1% of that big market is what you want to look. I don't want to look at a big thing, it's too big. I just want to look at 1/10 of the big market. And then I want to look at a small piece of that 1/10. That's still really, really big market, big numbers from a business standpoint. So in just the transmitter side, just the receiver side, big number. On the next gen, where Sharif said we're going to put this stuff inside of devices, big number. That subscription, right? Think of my 15 and my 17-year-old. I'm paying that every month. And they're going to bug me to death. Daddy, I need WiGL. Daddy, I need WiGL. Daddy, I need WiGL, right? So I'm going to pay it. I'm going to pay it because they're going to lose the block or they're going to break the cord or what have you. So those markets are really, really, really huge. The business case for it, we believe, is very, very strong. So, okay, how do you get from in my head, in Sharif's head, into reality? So we said we step this thing. So step one is really development of the technology. Now you heard Sharif say, right, we've done some stuff already. We've already done some prototyping. We've already built some capabilities. We're already under contract to deliver this capability to show that this stuff works in some military applications. I'll hold up this little ugly guy, right? We've already taken where you saw with Sharif, where he had kind of the big prototype stuff. He says, we're going to miniaturize it. We've already done that before, right? We've already done that. We're now exploring getting more capability, getting better harvesting of energy. And we now have the capability through some agreements to move this technology even further. We can develop the technology even further and get it to market even better. So our next piece is growth, right? So what does that mean? That means that dongle, right? Sharif said, hey, we need to take that stuff, lessons learned, a couple $1 billion already spent in how do you get cellular, right? Can you hear me now? You know, the old commercial, can you hear me now? What they did was they realized there were gaps. Well, if you couldn't hear me, it's because you didn't have a transmitter, so I put a transmitter there. I need to give you better receiver capability. And we think that these folks are really, really smart and onto some stuff inside of this space. And we've already started some discussions with some of these folks. Because the next piece for us is, if you think Intel inside, that's really where we're going to with WiGL, is the ability for you to say, hey, I want WiGL just like I get Wi-Fi. And we think that these folks are really prime target, and others, for integrating that technology into stuff. You heard Sharif talk about inside of a light bulb, inside of a ceiling fan, inside of an Apple device. That's where we think this technology is going for us. So here's the important piece of this brief, right? And I wanted to make myself a little check mark, but I got excited when Sharif started talking the math and stuff, and the geek in me came out. I have probably said the word Wi-Fi, I don't know, at least 50 times. I don't think a single person listening to this has stopped and thought, well, what does he mean when he says Wi-Fi? Because you already know what Wi-Fi means. Wi-Fi has a definition to you in your head, right? You didn't say I want 2.4 gigahertz or 2.6 and I wanted this. You know, you just said Wi-Fi, and you know what Wi-Fi gave you the ability to do. That's what we're going. That's where we're going with WiGL. Wi-Fi gets you internet. WiGL gets you power. That's the concept that we're talking to you about today. And Jeff has been gracious enough to invite us here to talk to you all about what WiGL is and talk to you about where we are in our stage of development. We're doing, as I mentioned, we're doing some stuff already with a vendor for DoD for application. And we're in our pre-seed round. And what we're intended to do is to network those transmitters together. So, right, so you saw Sharif and he showed you the stuff and he said, hey, I'm doing this beamforming and we're going to build this network. If you could imagine, again, back to AT&T and Verizon, right, building the network so that you could get the cell phone coverage wherever you want. We're at that stage now, building that network to move this technology forward, developing those teams, getting with the folks that are really, really smart and making some great advances in this industry. They need our patent to be able to get more than 15 feet or more power than just for a hearing aid. And moving forward with our minimally viable products and startup. So I'm gonna kind of leave here with here's some contact information. I'll leave that up for a few seconds for folks that want to do a screenshot or if you need to later, we can come back to it. Hopefully that was informative. Jeff, I'm going to hand back off to you, and I'm going to leave it by saying, hey, let's WiGL.
Ahmad and Sharif, thanks again for sharing this exciting technology with us. It is unbelievable the work that you guys have done right here out of Hampton, Virginia and New Jersey, and working together with our friends also in Florida, I believe, as well. This is truly exciting technology, and we at Tech Center are really happy to be working with you and helping to, again, grow businesses that matter and commercialize technology. I know that there are a number of people on who may have questions for you at this point, and it would be great if we could open it up in the remaining time that we have for questions for you and Sharif. And so I'll kick it over then to Mary and Kelly, who will read the question. And if there's any of you who are out there and have additional questions, please feel free to ask them at this time. So I'll kick it to Mary and or Kelly.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. I'll go with the first one. We have a question that says, will it charge when in my pocket or purse? And will it get hot in my pocket or purse?
Sharif?
Yeah, no, it will charge, assuming you're not carrying a metal purse. But yes, it will. Of course, it's gonna receive a little bit power, but it will charge in your thing, and I don't see any reason why it should get warm. It's the same signal you're receiving now. I mean, as a matter of fact, right now, when your phone is in your purse, it doesn't mean it's off. It's always talking to the nearest base station to tell it I'm here, and so this way, if somebody calls you on the other side, he knows where you are.
Great. Okay, the next question is, if you plug in, it takes about 1 hour to charge. If using WiGL, is it still 1 hour?
Yeah, so it is still 1 hour, but the thing here is right now, well, first of all, it depends what handheld device you have, okay? But it's still 1 hour. But if you have power always there, that time is really irrelevant. As a matter of fact, what we say, right now, most of the handheld devices and anybody else, as a matter for who makes any device that has a battery in there, one of the great headaches that they have to deal with is to give you as much battery to allow you to charge fewer times during the day. Otherwise, you're going to be mad at them and not mad at devices. We do believe that with our technology, it will make it very easy for them. So this way, they don't have to give you super duper battery in there. They give you a small, very tiny battery in there, because the energy that you need to power your device, it's in the ether. It's everywhere around you. So that is what we do believe our technology will allow the industry to do.
So I thought that was a great question, because that tells me, I don't know, I think it says anonymous, right? That tells me that folks are beginning to see through the paradigm, right? And see to the other side. Because here's what Sharif and I talk about, right? So what you're seeing now is the beginning stages of, I can get wireless power on demand wherever I'm at. As we get further away from the existing paradigm and into the paradigm shift, we're going to move to, I don't need a battery. I just need a WiGL network. And so my device won't even come with a battery in it. My device in 10, 15, 20 years will come with WiGL capability for me to get on the network, and that's what powers my device.
That's very interesting. So we did have a question about how many, in a home application, how many things would you need to do at home? I'm guessing different, are there other parts, how difficult would it be to do at home?
So the way we see it is, we talk about putting transmitter. So you will have a transmitter in the home, and that transmitter can be the same as what you have the Wi-Fi. And then you can have, I guess, couple in the room, as it's shown here in the diagram. So you can have a power plug acting like a transmitter, and the power plug will be retrofitted. So the way we see it is, you remove the power, and then you put another one that gives you the holes to put the power, and yet around it you have the transmitter in there. That's one way. Another one is when you buy your fan, your fan will have a transmitter in there. When you buy, for instance, something that you put on the table, you will have a transmitter in there. And these are basically entities or elements that transmit the power, and they have the smarts to generate the beam that we're talking about. On the handheld device, you will have, with generation 1, you will have, I guess what we call a dongle or an applique, something that you can hook up. On one side hooks up to your power plug of your handheld device. On the other side, it has the equivalent of the receiver, small antenna in there. And that's basically what you will need to start up.
Yeah, so again, I don't know who's asking this question, but I want to meet you. Yeah, because you see it through the paradigm. So here's what excites me whenever I'm talking about WiGL and I go to somewhere, right? If I walk into your room, whoever wrote the question, whatever room you're sitting in, right? Just look around at how many electrical outlets are in your room. Now, how many light switches are in your room? Now, how many light bulbs are in your room? Now, how many things are in your room that are electric, right? Got a TV in there, you got a laptop in there, right? What if all of those things had a transmitter in those? right? That's the Internet of Things. Internet of Things says, what if I could make all that stuff talk to each other? WiGL says, what if I could make all of that stuff, because it's going to talk to each other anyway, right? Whether you want to or not, you won't be able to buy devices that won't be Internet enabled or Internet of Things enabled. So what if it also was WiGL enabled? So it was not only sending information, it was also feeding you the power that you needed when you needed it. So that's a great question, right? How many would I need? Well, how many things will you have that will be able to provide it for you, right? That's really where the paradigm's shifting you to.
So that question was from Wink Bennett,
Oh,
and
Wink.
and we had Linda King actually ask a very good question that would kind of tag along with that. She wanted to know how many wiggle work devices could you do in one home, as far as like several iPhones, maybe a Samsung phone, maybe an Apple TV. Like, would this be compatible across all of those? I thought that was kind of a little tag on.
Oh yeah, that's good. So my question, and I haven't done it before, right? How many of these things do you have? Right? How many cords do you, I'm sitting at my desk. I had a bunch of these things just sitting around. I didn't realize until now I had cords and plugs all over the place, right? So really what we're talking about is replacing those with the ability to not need those. And then as Sharif, right, so that's generation one. That's right now. That's today, right? Let's replace this guy. Let's put a transmitter in this guy. So I plug this guy into the wall, and then I don't have to hunt for a cord ever again. I just put a dongle in my device. Samsung enabled dongle, iPhone enabled dongle, right? Whatever you want to call it. I plug that guy into the phone. So that's generation now. In the future, that technology that would be in this guy would be inside of the electrical outlet. It's in the fan. And so, you know, when you say, well, how many would I have to buy? I would just buy a light switch, and the light switch comes with it in it. I just buy a TV, and the TV comes with a WiGL transmitter in the TV. My laptop has it in there.
And I think that is a question about safety concerns. Hello?
Uh-oh, did we lose Mary?
Mary?
I think Mary must be Kelly. What's the next question?
Yeah,
I think you had a next question that was
Next
there.
question is, will the signal interfere with wireless routers or other wireless devices in proximity?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we give a lot of thought to the way we do our beamforming, and we're leveraging a lot of research that has been done in the 5G ATW. I'm sorry, in the 5G in the 5G technology, the one that's coming up, where basically where we form our beam in such a way that it is going to be it will not interfere with the 2.4 gigahertz. That's one thing that we're looking at. There's going to be a certain interference, but not much. The other one is we just pick 2.4 gigahertz for trans because it's easier, but nothing will tell us we might use a different frequency. And that's the thing that talking to the, looking at what the industry is going, and that's what we can use. We can use other frequencies that are free to use, and that will be able to allow you not to, this way we will not interfere with the 2.4 gigahertz. As a matter of fact, there is another thing that we have to worry about interfering. The all Internet of Things that are coming out in the field, they're all will have RF. And that's one of the things I mentioned in my portion of the talk is we spent a lot of time in trying to come up with a beamforming concept that will not interfere with all the Internet of Things as well as the existing Wi-Fi devices. Over.
So we have a question from Matt Johnson. He asked about concerns or interference. What concerns do you have about operating within an unlicensed spectrum that is becoming increasingly crowded? And do you foresee a point in time where the FCC opens up spectrum for licensed wire power transfer like WiGL?
Yes, there is some talk now. Luckily, there are some bodies that are talking. There's some talk in trying to talk to the FCC and all the other governmental bodies and they're starting to see the need for this technology. So I foresee that they are going to add frequencies, not just for power, but also for all the 5G devices, for the IoT devices that are going to be deployed. And as the professor mentioned before, I think by the year 2030 or something, we're going to have about 20 billion Internet of Things devices. And all this is the need to have RF and everything. So yes, the answer, the short answer is going to be, there are going to be some frequencies allocated. The nice thing about our technology, it is the frequency agnostics, and we don't really care. We just have to tune our frequencies and transmitter to the appropriate frequency that's going to be allocated. One caveat, though, is the higher you go in frequency, the more attenuation you will have, and that's one of the things that we are also looking at in our technology. Over.
I believe this question came from Christy. Will there be any additional component that has to physically attach to the mobile device? If so, what is the benefit over a charging case?
Well, so the device, what's going to be hooked up to your device is going to be a dongle. The dongle will have an antenna and will have something that hooks up over. That's what you will need. The benefit over the charging case is if you are in a WiGL environment, you don't need to think about the charging case, because the charging case, you have to charge it to start with. Mm-hmm. So in what we have is you don't need to charge. This is something like wireless Wi-Fi here. If you have an area that has Wi-Fi, that's it. You don't really think about taking with you the old ways where you can use your phone as an access point to the internet and everything. And that's really the analogy that I can make.
I'm sorry, what was the name of that person?
Christy.
All right, so Christy, so again, I'm over here like bubbling with excitement, right? So, because these are really, really good questions. So here's my phone, right? And so I've got a case on this thing. And this is not a charging case. This is just a case, so if I drop it, because I drop it a lot. So could you put a WiGL dongle into that case? Yes. So as Sharif mentioned, right, you may not need that a charging case because the case has a capacitor in it, you got a storage in the capacitor. No, you would just have a case because maybe you're like me and you want a case so you don't drop your phone, and your case is WiGL enabled. So if that's your question, then absolutely, right, you'd go and you'd buy a case and the case would cost whatever, and it would be a WiGL enabled case.
Okay, we have Tamara Brown that asked, is there a monthly subscription cost? And if so, an approximate?
So, very good question. We in our business model, right? Because, you know, as Jeff mentioned at the beginning, right? His role there with us is, hey, you guys got a great idea, sounds good. I love what you guys want to do for DoD, but how can the free market get to this stuff? And so there's a subscription piece. And so we took a look and we said, well, what are people paying, right, in the US for this technology today? You know, if somebody said, I'm sorry, not this technology, but for Wi-Fi. If a person says, hey, I want Wi-Fi. So we looked around the globe, and around the world, people are paying. Hopefully, can they see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
So around the globe, this is what people are paying. So we said, hey, this is the US, right? It's between $10 and $29 a month for access from your mobile device to the Wi-Fi. Now, what's happening in your house or what you pay when you go stay at the Marriott or the Omni or Ritz-Carlton, right? This is what you pay for your phone. So we landed, just from a modeling standpoint, at about $19.99. We said, hey, that's about what I could stand to lose to have wireless power. And why is that important? Why is that important for me? Sadly, because you know, I know Tamara knows I travel a lot. I probably spend $40 each trip buying another block and cable because I keep losing. And so we think that that's a nominal cost of what the subscription would be. It's right in the middle of where the market is now, maybe even a little bit at the lower end of the market. And I think folks would gladly pay for that convenience. But great question.
The presentation shows 3 feet as a distance for the charging signal. Is that current, and how far can the signal reach?
Yeah, so the prototype that we're showing, it's for some paid work that we're for a funding agency that's funding us, and we're just using it to test to see how much power we're measuring. But we have tested up to 10 feet. Again, that's with a caveat because it depends how much power you need. What we discovered is the newer phones, they require a lot more power to charge. And the reason being because they're made in such a way, because they want to make it in such a way that when you charge once, you don't have to charge too many times. But the answer is the 3 feet that we're showing now is just for this application that we're paying now, that we're funded with. And we test at 10 feet. And we are in the process of taking more measurements because we're characterizing the antenna. There's a whole lot of technology involved into this thing here because, as I mentioned before, you have the cellular network. The cell tower costs about maybe many $1 million. We want to replicate the functionality of that box into something that costs less than $5. So the answer is yes. Right now we're showing with 3 feet, but we are going to demonstrate and see how far we can go. And I think 10 feet is very reasonable.
Thank you, Sharif.
Here's another, I'm gonna jump in there. Here's another very important thing, right? Because I'm loving these questions. So here's what, even what Sharif said, right? 3 feet, 10 feet. Here's the important part of that. We are networking the transmitters, right? Remember again, Verizon guy, can you hear me now? No, I can't. Okay, put another transmitter in. Can you hear me now? Yep, I hear you, it's great. So what 3 feet really says is 6 feet, because I can have a guy here, he's 3 feet, guy here, he's 3 feet, right? So when Sharif's talking about distance, he's looking at distance in a whole nother glass. He's not looking at it from one transmitter to one receiver, how far away. He's looking at it as how can I move that beam when you move that beam? What is really the size that I need to cover for a full room? Is there another transmitter? Would the better placement be a transmitter on one side, right? This is not a one transmitter to one receiver. How far away can you get? We are light years past that piece.
Okay, so we have just about 2 minutes left. However, this Zoom will not end if you want to stay on. I just want to throw that out there. We have about 6 questions to get to, and they're all excellent. We have one from Bridget Giles that says, will there be any safety concerns as long-term exposure to low levels of energy? And will they have biological effects such as DNA damage?
The power that we're going to be using is going to be whatever is going to be mandated by the FCC, the same rules as with Wi-Fi and the cellular power. And we've been using this for more, 30 years ago. And so far, but the answer is we will be using the power that is mandated by the FCC and all the governmental bodies.
Yeah, and what we share with people, right? I think you saw in the video that it's the same frequency. Sharif said it a number of times. The unlicensed frequency is what we've been testing on right now. So when people say, hey, will it be safe? So this is what Sharif tells me. I hope so, because we're using the same frequency as Wi-Fi. So if it's not, we all have a problem because I don't think we're going to give up Wi-Fi. So.
All right, next question. If I'm using this regularly, is there going to be wear my battery out faster? Right now, any type of rechargeable battery does not last for extended time. The more is charged over a period of time.
The way our application will work is we can conceive it as under user programmable, meaning you can tell it when you want to charge, or it doesn't have to charge all the times, because really, and as we were saying, this really introduced a new paradigm. Right now, the reason you have the big super duper batteries because you want to charge it once and then not go back to it maybe in a day or something. But if our technology, what it does, it basically makes the whole ether around you, the whole environment as the batteries. So really, you really need it. You really use it when you need it. So this, we foresee, or at least we see that the battery in whenever, if our technology is deployed, you no longer need a battery. You need maybe a very minimal something in there that basically uses as a cushion, and then you will not need the battery because the whole ether, the whole environment around you is the battery. Over.
So unfortunately, we do have to wrap this up. I am going to turn it over to Jeff Johnson to summarize this session, and please stay tuned for an email follow-up where we'll try to go ahead and answer the rest of those questions.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for a great Q&A and a great presentation. Dr. Glover and Sharif Shabang, we appreciate you taking the time out and sharing this exciting technology with us here at Tech Center. Our goal, of course, is to help commercialize discovery and grow businesses that matter. This is what we do both here and, of course, back in Blacksburg, where Mary is, and where our new leader, Brett, is as well, who's really growing businesses there as well. So that's our focus here at Tech Center. If you have an idea or if you have technology that you'd like to help move forward, give us a call at Tech Center. Each of you on this call will get a thank you follow-up note from Kelly, I believe, here, and answers to questions that we were not able to get to. I know that there was a ton of questions in the Q&A that we were not able to get to, but we do want to actually follow up with you on these questions. We also want to provide you the contact information to Dr. Glover and Sharif as well, so that you can talk to them directly. Again, I can't thank you enough for taking your lunch and spending it with us. Thank you to Kelly. Thank you to Mary for helping us to pull together this webinar. And we'll look forward to seeing you at our next Tech Talk, which we believe will be focused around driverless cars. So I know you're all excited about that. So we look forward to seeing you at the next Tech Talk. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks a lot.